Okay, it is 5 o'clock, Monday, March 22nd, calling the Bastrop Economic Development Corporation to order. At this time, I'd like to take a roll call. Mayor Schrader? Here. Mr. Gossick?
Here.
Mr. Keir? Here. Ms. Nash? Here. Mr. Plunkett?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Here.
And Mr. Washington?
Here.
We do have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and proceed. Do we have public comments? No? Okay. Then we'll move on. Regular business. Let's start with 3.1, approval of meeting minutes from the BEDC board meeting of January 25th, 2021, and special board meeting of March the 5th, 2021. They are in the page 3 of your packet. Do we have any questions, additions, edits?
Move to approve both.
Second.
All those in
second that.
favor? Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 3.2, acceptance of financial reports provided by City of Bastrop's Chief Financial Officer for periods ending January 2021 and February 2021, page 7 of your packet. Angela, do you have anything of note that you want to point out on the financials?
Yes, ma'am. There are a few things that we still need to get straight for this year's budget. We need to make some budget transfers, probably an amendment or two, and I'm going to work with our board treasurer this following month to bring them back to you at the April meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions for Angela on the financials? Mr. Keir, do you have any concerns about the financials?
No, the only mention is that we received rent from 9/21 in March for January, February, and March. So there's nothing in January or February financials. So I just wanted to make that point. Other than that, I make a motion to accept the financials.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those approve?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. All right. 3.3, receive update of 921 Main Street project from project manager Jimmy Crouch. He has information on page 22 of your packet, and I'll turn it over to you at this time.
I guess this is on. So I had a whole PowerPoint slide, the one I usually bring up, but I think it was too big. So I made a one-sheet summary of it, and I just zipped through the one-sheet thing. If you got any questions with any of it, just let me know, and I'll stop and I can elaborate on it, or we can pull up the PowerPoint. But I think the one-sheet piece will be fine. As far as this is the final report for the 921 Main Street. Like I said, there is a full presentation. You guys I can send it to you separately, or we can take the time and pull up the link if you want. The original budget was $1.8 million, and that was with Stone Development at the very beginning of the project in 2019, I think, actually. When Sabre took over the project, their GMP contract amount was $412,147.56. They gave us one change order for the job at the end of the job, and it was a deductive change order for $4,604.08. So for Sabre's contract portion, which was what I was overseeing the entire time, we actually got back $604.08. So, which is good. We built the whole project. We kept everything within our contingency, and at the end of the day, we got contingency money back in $4,000, and actually went over our timeline by a month and a half, I think, total at the end of the day. So, and we still stayed within that original budget. So it's good that we did that. We could have had some more money back at the end of the day, but we needed to spend the contingency, or didn't need to spend it, but we needed to use the contingency for some miscellaneous items throughout the course of the job. So real good on Sabre's part, working with us. We had a great team when we finally got the construction started, and it turned out really nice, I think, at the end of the day. As far as the design, there was design change orders issued in the amount of $29,144. That was negotiated down to $20,000. And so that was the only change orders we received for the design. There was multiple ones that made up that $20,000 at the end of the day. Last one being as-built drawings that incorporated all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings that were changed to fit their stuff in our space, basically. So we had to document that, turn that into the city at the end of the day for permitting, and there was a small, I think it was $6,000, give or take a couple $100 on that. But at the end of the day, it was $20,000 is what we negotiated out. The tenant improvements, the Art Institute, per their contract, was supposed to pay, or their allowance for the tenant improvements was $35 a square foot, which was $337,876.63. They did go over that allowance. The total allowance that they went over was $319,375. So that's what they went over, and that's what they should pay for per their agreement. And I think the total amount per square foot was $67.23 that they went over per square foot. So that's it on the budget piece of it. We did well, stayed within our budget. We did go over a little bit on the time. And then the Art Institute has gone over on theirs, and that needs to be collected at the end of the day as part of their lease agreement. As far as permitting, we received substantial completion on December 3rd, 2020, which was the end of the construction piece of the project. So as far as the city was concerned with Sabre Construction and all of the construction for the project, we received that on 12/3. There still isn't a certificate of occupancy issued for the building yet, and that certificate of occupancy permit was applied for by the Art Institute and can't be fully issued until the security and alarm and access controls are finished up. I believe there's a meeting for that tomorrow to have a preliminary run-through before the fire marshal sees it. And the issue with it is they had to put their access controls, all their card readers, it has to sync with their alarm system, which is by them. And the card readers mechanism was by us. Their control system was by them with their security. So it has to mesh with those two. They've been installing all of this time their piece of the alarm and access controls and security systems, all the cameras and stuff. And so last I heard, tomorrow is a walkthrough of that before we give it to the fire marshal, just so that we can make sure that it works properly. And we know that it's going to pass with him. So there should be a meeting tomorrow. Hopefully there's another meeting Thursday with the fire marshal so that he can sign off on it and say that everything's great. So that's scheduled for this week, last I heard. Unless it changes, that should get a certificate of occupancy for them. Up until that point, they can occupy the building just for their work and for staging their furniture and stuff, which they've been doing, but they can't open to the public. So that's kind of how that is. I'm not positive as to the date they want to open to the public. I don't think it's several months off, though, I think. So I haven't heard officially from anybody what the date is. I've heard a lot of different dates, so I'm not even going to elaborate on what the date is, but totally up to them and their certificate of occupancy. The design, we just had a total of 5 change directives. So we went in and revised the drawings 5 times. The biggest single thing that we did was we changed the exterior skin of the building and made insulated metal panels instead of the design that was there originally, which was a very good idea to do that. But that, for the most part, we stayed within our original design with the exception of the changing of the building envelope, and that was really the extent of that. We do have all closeout documents from all of the designers. We have substantial completion certificates. We have letters of compliance from everyone. We have the as-built drawings, and all the punch lists were completed back in December. So all of the closeout documents, including the last one we were waiting for was a test and balance report on the mechanical system, and then we've had that for a couple of weeks now. So all that stuff is ready to be turned over to the BEDC along with all the keys. I have a key ring this big with all the keys to all the equipment and elevator, toilet accessories, just everything. All that stuff is ready to be turned over. We did have it keyed to Art Institute's keying schedule, so each room has its own individual key, and then some of them are master keyed, so the janitor can go in and get into 90% of the offices, and then some of them he can't get into, but that has all been done as well. So it's all master keyed to meet their criteria, and then one key can get into everything if we need to, so which the key you guys will have. Safety specifics. At the end of the project, we retotaled everything. We had 13,058 total safe hours on the project, which is incredible. We had 21 different subcontractors that worked on the job that totaled those hours. We had a total of 1,568 workers on the job from all those subcontractors, and we had 0 lost time incidents reported on the project. So we did have some minor scrapes and things like that, but nothing, what they call it reportable, so nothing you had to go see a physician for. So we did have 2 small COVID delays, I think a week or 2 each. Other than that, the job was done really well in a really small amount of space, and kudos to Sabre and their team for putting everything together and doing it in a safe manner. And then high level, that's what we've got as far as budget, permits, design, and safety. It was a very good job. I really enjoyed being able to manage a piece of it. So that was, thank you for that. And then I hope you guys liked it and it turned out nice. I hadn't heard anything but good things about that, about the building. So any questions from anybody?
I have one question for the board. Original budget was 1.8 million when Stone had it, and then when it switched, did they come to the board for another budget amount to be approved, or did it just approve the contract to the new company?
You're talking about Stone?
Yeah, when it was 1.8 million, and then the Sabre construction contract was 2.4 million. Was there a second budget
Yes.
approval?
Yes, I think, yeah.
And how much?
And the reason we switched was because, it wasn't because Stone was asking for more money, it was, they were not performing.
How much?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, how much was that? How much was that budget for? The approved budget? Do you remember?
I'm not
Yes,
sure if
that's
it
what
was
you have
over
there,
the construction amount, because all I really saw was the construction amount. I whatever was shared what the design fees were or anything. I know that, so Sabre's piece didn't have the designer's money in it. It was just for their construction. And I'm not sure what the revision was to go from 1.8 to 2.4, if that's all there was with that or not. I don't know.
I guess the question is just to understand what was our approved budget and what was our total final cost, because this doesn't appear to be the total final cost.
No, it's not the final cost. I don't actually recollect what the budget process was, but I think the last number I heard from Cameron was almost 2.9 million in total, I think, was the total all in.
And that's probably got testing, all the legwork at the beginning of the job with the design and the geotechnical reports and all the studies.
And the overage on the fit up.
Yeah.
Mitigation for the
there's-
neighbors probably too.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's included in that was done way before, and then there might be, I know we had the mural that we decided to put in.
But I
and-
think that's a good idea.
So
I
there's-
think we should know what the total cost was.
I'd like
of
to
the
see the
building.
budget, what was the budget and what was the total final
Yeah.
cost? 'Cause since it is the final report,
Yeah.
from your part, I understood.
Yeah.
Just to see the total picture of the project.
Yeah, so the 1.8 that I mentioned at the beginning was Stone Developments. That was just there for the building only, and then 2.4 was Sabres for the building only. And I think if you'd have stayed with Stone, at the end of the day, you'd have been right where Sabre was. Because all those modifications would have need to have been done to build the building properly, I think.
I would think, Angela, do you think Tracy can get that information for us for the next meeting?
Unless I beat her to it.
Okay.
I'm looking at the resolution where Sabre was approved. It also says that the CEO will take the actions necessary to execute the documents. So I just need to get my hands on that portion that was never uploaded into Dropbox.
But I think Tracy's probably the only one that can actually come back and get all of the costs that are applicable. to
That's
the
a fair
project.
assessment, yes.
Okay.
You guys have any other questions on my piece of it?
No, I think you did an excellent job, and thank you for keeping this project moving. That was huge.
Thanks. I really enjoyed working on it. It's nice to be part of that downtown building, and they're happy with it. The Art Institute is. Wish they would hurry up and finish their piece of it, but they're very happy with what they've got. I think they'll make some minor tweaks from what I've seen in the past couple of months, just to accommodate some things that they need, but I think they're very happy with the building.
Well, it was a big project. It has totally changed the complexion of the street and the way that it's...
All of downtown, yeah.
All of downtown. I think if I were looking for a school to go to, and I had gone to their original place up north of Austin, and I came to this one would make me want to come much more. So I think it's an attractive, not just building, but it's also a great advertisement for the school itself.
Yeah, and once they get fully operational, it'll just help out all of downtown with all the students being there, and won't help the parking much, but it'll help all the businesses around it. So, good addition, and nice building. It's the prettiest one downtown now, I think.
Okay,
Well,
any
except the
other
one in the
questions?
corner.
Just one quick one. Jimmy, do you have a breakdown on the expenses, the monthly expenses that they're paying? Do you know
From Sabre, I do,
No,
yeah.
for AI. They pay rent, they pay a monthly expense as well.
I just have, for AI, I just have their $35 per square foot. I have what that is included in that, and I have everything that they went over on. And so I have
So you just have the fit
$600,000
up.
worth of stuff. So
Do you-
I have
do
that
you
in
have that?
detail. But
Jimmy's going to attend with y'all an executive session to do the closeout, the tenant finish-up closeout, to
Yeah.
update you on all the numbers and
I
everything.
understand that, but
Okay.
there's two pieces to the payment, the monthly payment. There's the rent, and then there's expenses.
He's construction,
Right,
not internal.
understand.
So that's why,
Are you-
I'm just saying that's why he doesn't have that.
No, I understand.
So
Who does have that?
Are you referencing utilities or the extra,
Whatever's,
what they pay on a monthly basis, the internal, the.
we have that. We're still figuring out one thing, and that's the telephone. I didn't want to,
oh, yeah.
we spoke about that, but we have everything else caught up.
okay, good.
Yeah, there's a question with the phone, I think, but there's an elevator phone line that has to be in place for emergencies on the elevator so that it can call out. And I think there was a question whether AI was paying that or if BEDC was paying it. And BEDC should pay that as the owner of the building. And it's minimal, it's like $30 or something like that. So that was the only question. And now they have, the same company, AT&T, has their service too. So I think they just wanted to make sure it wasn't getting wrapped up in their AT&T bill versus BEDC's AT&T bill. So, all right, well, thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, so moving to 3.4, discussion and possible action on forming an ad hoc committee on BED's projects. That is on page 24 of your agenda. Push mine up here. So the executive committee recently met with Angela and Jean and discussing the ways in which we could utilize the board and their expertise on a number of things. Obviously, the two of them are alone right now, so let's just take the first one that I dropped off on your desk before you came in. It has to do with hiring an office manager. And what I'd like to have is someone from the board who has managerial experience take a look at what they've listed out as the duties for the office manager that we'll be hiring. I think this has kind of a list of duties, and what we'd like to do is maybe bucket them into some areas of expertise and maybe beef up some of the other things that we might want to include, some technology skills. Once we do that, then I'd like for that person or persons, it could be a committee of one, it could be a committee of two, to work probably with Angela to finalize the job description and to work with her through that resume collection process to come up with the final candidates that we can take a look at. Charles, I know you have a great deal of managerial experience. I'm just calling out your area of expertise that I think could be beneficial to this if you would have some time to devote working on this particular project. Anybody else that would like to participate in it as well? I can help out minimally, but I don't want to take a lead on this at this time.
So, if I'm understanding, what we're looking to do is to hire an office manager?
To replace Kathy Merrifield.
Okay. And what we need to do is take a look at what's been presented to us here for the essential functions and requirements. And you want somebody to work with who now?
I think Angela's going to be the lead on this one. She's the one who gathered up all the information on the duties, and I think that's the best way to sort it out. That she was very involved with the hiring of the last office manager and actually works very closely with the office manager and knows exactly what the sorts of things that come up from day to day that she needs to have someone she can depend on.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
I'll volunteer.
Okay.
One of the things that I would like to throw out is the office, the total office, and the staffing in the office. Do we see a need to take a look and see if it's staffed to do what we want done? And, you know, Bastrop is growing, and I think, you know, we'd like to see a lot of businesses come in, which probably would bring a lot of projects, possible projects. So I guess, is there a need to kind of take a look and see, do we need to look at proper staffing?
I always like to do first things first, and I know that Angela is in great need of an office manager like yesterday. So I'm going to point that out first. Okay. We always have a need to reevaluate where we are in the process of getting our projects done, what expertise we need. Obviously, as we grow and we know we have lots of projects headed our way, we definitely need. So maybe this is the beginning of a bigger job that you're volunteering for.
I'm not sure about that. But I mean, well, I just, you know, I think the office manager is one person. And, you know, we're talking about all the projects, and we want to talk about a committee to look at the projects. And if we're talking about pulling people from the board to do that, is there any conflicts in in being a board member and also being a part, because what you're saying is we're now going to what the corporation, in my opinion, should be doing.
Well, I think, you know, the board has a great deal of expertise in where they can help out and be more involved. I think that is a good thing. We're not doing their job for them. But I do think that at this point in time, we do need some extra help to jump in. Will we always be stepping up to do the job at which we should be hiring someone? Absolutely not. That's not our role. But I think that as working with the staff, not only will we be better informed, but I think they'll feel more comfortable in that we're more involved.
And I guess one other thing that I'd throw out is that I'm sure we'll be talking about trying to get another CEO.
Yes,
So,
we will.
Usually that person likes to pick their own staff. So
Uh,
are we,
Yeah.
is that something, I mean, are we getting ahead of ourselves here in the sense of getting an office manager? I don't have a problem with us trying to come up with the duties, but I know one of the things in management that you like to do is to have some input into what you want that person to be doing if you're the head of the office.
That's a really good point. We'll be discussing in executive session some of our next steps in regards to that. However, I think at this point in time, if I'm not mistaken, Angela, you were very involved with the last hiring of the office manager, and because of the critical nature of the need right now, I think that we need to go ahead and move forward. That doesn't mean necessarily that we'll have this even done before we have the next replacement. And of course, if it falls into that timeline, then obviously the new CEO would weigh in on that decision. But I think we can't afford to sit still on this particular position. We need to kind of move forward.
Okay.
Okay, another thing to address is an ad hoc committee that can assist with projects and to work with Jean as she is having lots of meetings with a lot of stakeholders. Many times, and I think we all feel this way, that the first time we hear about a project is almost when it's finished and completed and tied up neatly with a bow. We, as a board, should be more informed as the process is being worked out, knowing where the twists and the turns are, knowing what the conversations are, knowing who the players are. And so we have a great deal of expertise on this board in terms of development, in terms of building. And so we'd like to form a committee that can actually work with Jean. Jean has a lot of expertise, but she probably doesn't have as much building expertise, construction. Of course, we don't want to be building any more buildings, do we, Jimmy? But we do have expertise on the board, and we want to be more informed. We want to be involved in the process, not doing the job with them, but to give them support too, as they tackle some very big issues. I hate to think that it's always on their shoulders and they feel the weight of it. So that's what we're looking for. I know, Ron, you are very well versed. Bill, I know you are very well versed in both the building side of it, the development side of it, the contract side of it. It's the contracts especially that we need to know the ins and outs of. Kevin, I don't know how you feel about it. I don't want to leave anybody out. I want to make sure everybody has a job. Sam, I know you're busy counting our nickels and dimes, so I'm going to leave you alone. The mayor's pretty busy already, so I'm going to leave this open for discussion. You all toss it around here and talk about your interests, talk about your time, talk about your availability, talk about your expertise and what you think you might be able to add and what you don't want to do.
All right, well, I'll start with that. I would like to volunteer on some of that. There's some particular projects that I do have expertise in that are listed here that I'm sure we'll talk in executive session. And right now, I do have, 2 to 3 days a week that I can do that until I start on my next consulting job, but that may be another month or 3 from now, it just depends. But there's some particular things here I think I can actually help with you guys and take on some of that responsibility, and whatever I can do to help, in assisting you, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Likewise, Gene, more willing to help in any way you need. My expertise is economic development and project development globally. Been on economic development council for Altamira, Mexico, and the state of Tamaulipas, as well as doing global developments in China, Korea, India, Germany, Netherlands, and so forth, and a few things here in the U.S. So whatever you need, I can help out as well. My time I am retired, I am here in town and working on my own property development activities. So generally can be more available, except when my wife is ready to travel again. Once we finish our COVID vaccines, so then we may be traveling occasionally.
Go ahead, Kevin.
And I'd be glad to fill in any gaps where I can. I know a lot of the players at the city, so I can help with that in that regard. And I work downtown, and I'm here all the time anyway, so I can generally get to a meeting if I need to.
Well, I think that's real important because you have a pretty busy meeting schedule, and I'm not sure that even 2 people can attend those meetings. So it's absolutely, I think, imperative to have that backup that's always downtown and available to do that. So with that said, I think I'd like to just move forward and appoint Ron and Spencer and Bill Gossett and Kevin as our backup for the ad hoc committee that will be working on projects. We also talked about another committee.
Catherine,
Yes.
I'm happy to be a backup on that as well, because sometimes I'm already in those meetings, so,
Okay.
and I'm here a lot, so available to help.
Okay, sounds good. So we have 2 backups that can help out. So we also talked a little bit about how to improve communications with the city and where to start, how to start, who to start. And so we're just going to think about that a little bit. We've had some discussions that have some ideas to begin, some initial conversations where there's some confusion that we need to just figure out. We shouldn't have so many hurdles or obstacles that we can't walk into an office and have a discussion and walk out knowing more than what we knew when we walked in. So that's where we are. I know, Kevin, you're always downtown. I hate to keep picking on you. But I'm going to leave you in charge to gather up who you'd like to work with, to have conversations. Maybe Mr. Washington, I can throw something else in your direction. I know that Ron and Bill are going to be pretty busy. Sam's going to be real busy because budget's coming up. And I'm happy also to sit in on any of these conversations. But there shouldn't be a time that we can't come over here and sit down and have a discussion, as long as you call in advance. So, okay. That takes care of that piece of business. Anybody want to add to that? Anybody else want another committee going? Just asking. I might come up with one. Maybe the entertainment committee. Okay, so let's move on to 3.5. I've already lost my space on here. Scroll down to page 25. Let me get my computer open. This is very straightforward. We recently, let me just do this here. We recently redid, updated, edited a lot of our policies, procedures, bylaws. One thing that we did not address in that was the use of resources for any sort of political conversation, campaign, etc. So we want to address that and make sure that we are not using any resources, whether it's a computer, whether it's a phone, whether it's your time, in regards to personnel and campaign that come up fairly often within the city. So it is, I think it's really pretty straightforward. BEDC staff may not use any BEDC resources to engage in any campaign-related activity. Campaign-related activity includes, but is not limited to, the following: fundraising, conducting polls, performing campaign research, developing campaign materials, or corresponding regarding campaign matters. BEDC resources includes, but are not limited to, the following: internet, computers, email accounts, telephones, copiers, or other BEDC-owned equipment and services. So at this time, I can entertain a motion if you'd like to discuss this or ask any questions or find any way that you'd like to make any edits to it. We can talk about that as well. Just open it up.
Yeah, the only question I would have is, and this is probably for Charlie, I don't want to unnecessarily restrict any future board for, because this would include any campaigns, including bonds and things like that. Charlie, what's your legal opinion as far as like school bonds, for example? This language would seem to prohibit that.
It would, yes.
Is that something that we want to do?
That's a question for y'all, not for me, but you're correct. This was intentionally broadly worded to encompass all campaigns, whether it's local, state, or national. So it would prohibit the use of Economic Development Corporation funds for any federal, state, local campaign, as that term is commonly defined.
So I guess the question is that something we want to do? Like, for example, let's say the city is going to have I'm sure there will be a bond election for the city, within the next 50 years. I would imagine that the city would need information from the BEDC in order to, forecast information, for example, to determine what that bond should look like.
Yeah,
so this would.
Yeah, this wouldn't preclude the city and the Economic Development Corporation working together for purposes of determining, what's appropriate for a particular bond. What it would prohibit is advocating for or against or promoting a particular campaign.
Not the hard work that goes into the
Making it
information one needs,
That's right.
but the taking a position on.
That's correct, yes. Because anything done before the bond election, before city council decides whether or not to put it out for an election is not going to be a campaign. It's just going to be a discussion amongst two boards and bodies as to, what's in the best interest of the community and those types of things.
And then thereafter, the BEDC staff and group remain neutral and non-committal,
Yes, that's what this.
but they're allowed to
basically-
use their equipment or whatever to monitor progress and news related to these?
Yeah, of course, yes. And of course, anybody is allowed to, with their own personal devices, their own personal time, promote, advocate, or handle campaign issues however they'd like. This just restricts the use of EDC resources for that activity.
So I have a question. Along the lines of not advocating for, as Kevin said, a school bond, as the historian of the EDC, there have been times in the past where we have come out in support of, let's say, a school bond, or perhaps when ACC was on the bond, 2010-ish, I think. I can't quite remember if we came down one way or the other, but that would keep us from being able to do that, correct? We can't put signage in our window.
It would, and
Okay.
to the, well, if it would prevent you from using EDC resources. So if the EDC couldn't pay for the sign, distribute the sign, but if the school board gave you a sign and you wanted to put it in your window, I certainly would not interpret that as using EDC resources for, advocating for or against. One solution to your concern is perhaps you put in here, except upon approval of the board at the very beginning of this, and then that gives the board some flexibility with respect to these issues as they come up, where there may be, an appropriate reason to utilize BEDC resources for a particular campaign.
Yeah, because I could see a situation where, if we don't get, let's just say, keep those schools out of it, and if we don't get a bond passed for a new, wastewater treatment plant, we can't have a development that, we would need as an EDC. So I would think it would be appropriate for us to advocate for that bond election in a situation like that.
And we would evaluate whether or not, at any given time, whether or not it's appropriate, whether it's legal to utilize the EDC resources for those particular, whether you can advocate for or against a particular election. I don't want to get into it in a lot of detail in this meeting, but we're always going to have to do a legal review as to whether or not you can utilize those resources. But certainly, if you wanted to include the words I just suggested, that would at least give the board some flexibility to say, hey, this is something we might want to look into and utilize our resources for, and then go through the appropriate process to ensure that it can be done.
Also, following up on this, section 4 needs a title. It doesn't have a title, but it needs a title. And the table of contents needs to identify section 4, because section 4 is not the table of contents of chapter 5. So, since all those others are called BEDC something, I would call it BED, non-use of resources or capital campaign or something.
Angela, did you make note of that? I saw where you did insert it into the bylaws, but if you want to go back and format that for just some clarification.
I absolutely will. I just wasn't sure what to call it. What was your recommendation, Bill?
I don't know. It should be BEDC something, because the other ones in that chapter are all the same.
Okay.
So formatted BEDC, non-campaign or
Okay.
Or political activity.
Yeah.
Something real generic.
Yeah, we can, we were more concerned about the substance
Exactly.
rather than the formatting, but you're correct, that we will include some subject language and then the appropriate formatting for purposes of inserting it in the agenda.
And the table of
appropriate
contents.
Super. Okay,
I'll
great.
work with Charlie to make sure that happens.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Bill's our editor. He's going to be forming the next committee when we write our handbook.
Well, those are certainly valid points to make sure we get it done correctly.
Absolutely. Thanks. Okay, so we do need a motion, and that motion would probably need to also include Resolution R 2021-0006 with the addition of, with acceptance, legal review and where appropriate from the board.
So I'm sorry, so the specific language I would recommend, except as approved by the board, comma.
Except as approved by board.
And then the assumption of there, of course, is that your legal team is giving you the appropriate advice with respect to whether or not you can approve it or not.
Okay, sounds good. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion that, excuse me, we approve Resolution R 2021-0006 with the addition of except as approved by the board.
Second? All those approve?
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes unanimously. Okay, so on moving down to 3.6, BEDC recognized updates with the 2020 Award of Distinction by Bastrop Chamber of Commerce and the TEDC Economic Excellence Award. That's page 45 of your packet. First of all, well deserved. You earned it. It wasn't just your turn to get it, you earned it. We're very proud of the work that went in to getting both of these awards, but we know the work that went into the 3 COVID grants, the long hours, the weekend hours, the after hours. So congratulations to you. I'm not as familiar with the TEDC, but I think you've been winning this year in and year out. And I'll let somebody else comment on that one that may know more about that, or if you can share with us what that recognition is.
A lot of it actually has to do with the participation by our board members. If they take the sales tax training, or if they take the basic economic development course, if you have certifications among the staff, there's an entire checklist. And so every year for the last 6 years, I believe, we've been able to hit the points, and then some. It's not even come close, to be honest. So that's how we've been able to maintain it. So thank you all for taking the sales tax course and all of the other training that's one of those on there.
It's more focused on engagement from the board and staff of economic development.
Jean, if you don't have a mic, no one at home can hear you. So, and that won't help them at home, so you got to get a mic.
Thank you. No wonder I didn't know anything about it. Okay, so at this time, we're going to be going into executive session, and the Bastrop EDC Board of Directors will meet in a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, to discuss the following. 1, Sections 551.072 and 551.087, deliberation regarding the commercial or financial information as well as the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property received on projects Gravity, Superglue, Dashboard, Fiesta, and MLK Technology Extension Project and adjoining tracks. Section 551.072 and 551.087, deliberation regarding the commercial or financial information as well as the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, received property owned by BEDC, more particularly described as the 7.23 acres, with a legal description of A2 Austin Stephen F. acres 7.2340. Number 3, Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, and Sections 551.072 and 551.087, deliberation regarding the commercial and financial information as well as the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property regarding the Art Institute's lease amendment and final tenant finish-out cost of the project. 4, Section 551.074, personnel matters, discussion of chief executive officer. 5, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding termination of chief executive officer. So the time is 5:50. We can either convene in this room and go to the back and remove any guests for the time being, or we can go to the back room. I'm comfortable sitting at the smaller table in the back room, but I want to check with the board members as to whether they are or not, or if they'd like to have a bigger space. Then at this time, we will go into executive session in the back room. It's 5:50. We are reconvened into open session, and the time is 7:57. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
All those in favor?
You want a second?
Opposed? Good night.